Hello everybody. Hello everybody. Today's episode is what else can I do with a blouse? We have already hacked the sleeves. We have adjusted the fit. We've made set-in sleeves, drop shoulders, sleeveless. You're probably thinking, what else is there left to do with a blouse? Well, don't you worry. People have been challenging me to come up with things, and I've also had some ideas too. So today we're going to think about how we can change the bodice beyond just a few fit issues. Now on my mannequin today, whatever we call this, dressmaker's dummy, I have two tablecloths that I found in charity shops over the years. They've been lurking in the cupboard for a while. I think it's time one of those became something. So hopefully by the end of today's episode, one of those will become something using a bodice that I have tweaked. Now I am wearing today a blouse that I took from the Seasons of Ease Summer in New York dress. Now I love this dress, so hopefully pinging around me is some versions of that dress. But I also really like this V of the top and this sort of drape of the sleeve. And I was like, surely I can turn that into a top. But the challenge was there was a side zip and quite a high-waisted skirt that attach, and of course when you have a skirt that attaches to a bodice on a dress, it holds the bodice down, and as soon as you take that away you need more length because otherwise it's just going to float and it's got nothing at the bottom to finish it off. So I set about putting my own doubled over waistband on, again excuse the trousers, comfy trousers while I'm recording, my own waistband on the bottom, and this was a stretch viscose twill, which meant I needed nothing to be able to get this on over my head other than this gap here, because there was enough give in it that it would get over and slide down. So if we're looking for blouse inspiration, we don't just have to stop at blouses or tops, we can be looking at our dress patterns too. So my advice is be careful when you do it about how you're going to finish the bottom of it, whether you need to lengthen it or not, and also how it was designed to get on, because I've been looking at the Fabric Godmother Peony and I think that would make a lovely top, but how am I going to finish the bottom? And it's got a zip in the back, so how am I going to resolve that? So you might be thinking, what on earth is there left to do? Well, I have been thinking a lot about the bodice. Somebody asked me, how could, like on a top like this, could we put a placket in that doesn't exist? And also, if we have a placket, how can we get rid of it and make it just one continuous piece across the front? But I also thought about the back, because on a top like this, the back is pretty straightforward. On the Vista top, yes, I've mentioned it again. If you're playing a drinking game watching this series, you'll have had a few glasses by now. On the Vista top, which is a plain front and back, both cut on the fold, I was thinking, what could I do to add a bit of interest at the back? Because sometimes it's just fun to have a little bit of a detail that's unexpected. So we're also going to look at those today. So some of the things that you could think about include how you play with the yoke. Now I have an episode, which I'll put a link up here, to when I showed how I changed the back of the patina blouse yoke, which is a straight line, into a pointed one, and the other adjustments you needed to make, and how by turning that piece of fabric on the bias you could create a different effect and add piping, because adding a bit of piping to the back of a yoke suddenly just elevates it. So that's something you could think about when you're thinking, how do I just tweak, give this pattern a slightly different look? Or you can cut yourself a yoke if one doesn't exist on the front, pop a bit of piping in. So back to that, find that beloved bodice that you like and have a go. Remember, you're going to need your seam allowance. So what we're going to do now is cut to me showing you a technique to add some interesting detail to the back of a top, but you're going to have to wait till later to see the finished thing. So the Marilla Walker top, I know I've mentioned it before, and as I say, if you remember, we can talk about accessing it, but I'm using it for illustration purposes. This is one of the best examples I've ever seen of the difference between placket and no placket. So the original top is designed to be cut on the fold at the front and has this sort of round neck, but it comes with this piece here. And this piece is designed to go over the top and to help you reshape so that you then have the placket size. So if you look, this line here is designed to go down the centre front, which is there. That's the centre front. And what happens with this piece is you slide it over, and that shows you where you match it there. So you match those pieces in there, and you match this to the centre front line here, so that you have this amount overlapping. And by having that amount overlapping, it allows you to have enough for a placket, because obviously you have that on both sides. And that's the piece that folds in. So you fold that to then button it. So what I like to do, obviously you normally have to fold that away, is I actually raise it up, because you just lose some off the top. Let me move it down a minute. I move it up so you lose some off the top, and it means I can create the height that I want from the V, because like most V's, that's too low, so I raise it up and then just have to fold that bit out of the way there. But when someone was asking me, how do we add or remove a placket? Well, what we're doing is adding a piece down the front of both sides that then when we fold it to button it, we've given capacity for that plus enough to overlap. So if we do the opposite, if we take the patina blouse piece, we have to remember that this pattern includes here enough to overlap to button. Now it has a facing that goes completely underneath on this piece. So if you cut this on the fold, you would end up with about that much extra, which would normally be the bit that overlaps to button. So what you have to decide is, because it's tricky, because obviously you've got this V here, is do you lose some from here, or do you just have it slightly wider at the front? Do you cut a smaller size? So this one's a tricky one because you can't see the placket, and because you've got that there. But if we take a different pattern, so we will take the Size Me Sewing Seren. So we'll take this pattern, the Size Me Sewing Seren, which has a placket. On the pattern piece, let me get the right piece. On the front, there is a huge amount of information here about the placket. So if we think about it, because this has a hidden placket, this is all folding. So the actual line of where the top is here. So if you was to cut this without the placket, so cut it on the fold, you would fold down this line, so you would just be at this point here, which would be your scoop neck, and then the rest of the top. And I can feel you all thinking now, can you do that for us, Sam? So I'm just working on the Seren top at the moment to get a size that I like, because I'm not 100% on the size, but more than happy to demo that. And that's a really good example because you can see the placket to remove. So if we went back to Marilla Walker, if we think this doesn't have a placket, so this is just a normal cut on the fold front. So Tammy Handmade Nye is a good example of that. You would need to think about how much placket you would want to add. So if we think about this, how much of this placket would I want to add on the front to give me enough to fold in? Now there's no reason to just do it on the front, we could do it on the back. So I am thinking of taking the Marilla Walker, leaving the front with, I'm going to play and do a slight V, but on the back, why don't we create a placket on the back and have buttons down the back, even if they're faux buttons, something interesting on the back. So let's see what happens. So here we go with the actual piece that you saw on the cutting mat. So this was the Marilla Walker Norse's top with the V that creates the button placket. So I removed the button placket, so I just had the V, but in the back, now you have to bear with that it's a bit rumply, but a plain back turned into a back with a button placket. Can you see that? Yes, you can. With a button placket. And obviously I've got pins holding it at the moment. I will be able to put buttons on there. You might be thinking, but you can't do buttons up on your back. So you can either just stitch them on, or you could button them up before you put it over your head. Whichever you prefer. But this was to prove that you can do something different with it. And I added the V on, because the back is normally like quite high rounded. Really quite like this. I didn't do it low enough that it would show my bra, but did it low enough that it just creates a bit of interest. So there's proof that any top you have that is plain at the back, you can put a placket in. I could have done it to the high curve still at the top, but hopefully you've enjoyed that little quick instruction on how to make a detail at the back and the top. It feels nice. I like the way it feels. It feels different. So another thing you can do with the same pattern. So today, tell me, have you seen a detail on a top, might have been in a shop, might have been online, might have been on a person, that you wish you could recreate? Let me know more ideas, because this is just making my brain go like this and I'm loving it. Have you ever turned a dress into a top or a blouse? Let me know which one worked for you, because I would love to see. Right, so this is a top I have made from the patina blouse with multiple modifications. So ignoring the fact I've only got one sleeve, because that'll make sense in a minute, and ignoring the fact there are threads, and ignoring the fact that there are pins holding it up, all of which are because it's not finished, I decided that the patina blouse actually has a collar, but I didn't want to put a collar on this one. And I've seen the lovely Nephilim blouse, and I really like this sort of inwards facing frill. So I'll come in close so you can see. I really felt that I could put a frill round this neckline, because you, like with the collar, you'd incorporate it between the blouse and the facing. And I'm really happy, oh, sorry, bear with, really happy with how this has turned out. This is in a viscous Moroccan, I think it's called. It's from Legend Textiles last year, and so it's really soft on my neck, but I love that. It is a great fix if a V is a bit low, because you get a bit of extra fabric in there. But I only have one sleeve on because I have created a tulip sleeve for this. Now I've gone for a long tulip sleeve, so the other one is not on, because I'm going to use the other one to now show you how I did this, but I thought you might like to see it first. So it's a gathered tulip sleeve. It means you've got lovely motion. There's none of that tightness when you wear just a sort of short sleeve or a cap sleeve, look. And I love it. As I say, it is a long tulip sleeve. It is like this, so you can't see any white fabric. And so I'm going to take you now on a journey through time and space. If you know that, leave a comment below what I'm talking about. On a journey through time and space to the world of that I know whether you are someone who likes the same TV as me. So I'm going to take you on a journey of how I make the other side. And I did it from taking a plain sleeve head, which could be the patina blouse, but I used the Vista Top plain sleeve head and turned it into this beauty. And we'll make the other one, and at the end you can see the complete outfit, including buttons. So what I want you to think about first is that, that with the tulip sleeve you've got to create two overlapping pieces. So if we draw a line like this, that would be the sleeve head. So what we've created on this side is a piece that goes across the sleeve head and then slopes across, so the rest of the sleeve would be over here. Now this piece looks even slightly more unusual because we have cut and splayed it. If we take the other side, now this piece is not as deep because we want this to be underneath. So if we look at that, we've got up to the sleeve head, the rest of the sleeve would come down and across here. So this swoops up quite a lot. This notch here is the centre point at the top of the sleeve, and you have that notch on here as well. Now, to make life easier, and there is excellent videos that I will put in the links to this, you join the two pieces together here. So you get this very strange piece. But what we've got to think about is this is the bit that's under the arm, because this is the bit that we normally join afterwards. And then these two pieces wrap round and have an overlap to create that tulip effect on the front. So we're doing it sort of opposite to how we normally do. Now, when you do a tulip sleeve, you will need to do it as a set-in. You can't do it open on the flat. So let me get the sleeve now, and then I can show you what I mean. So if we take the sleeve piece that's already in, you can then see that this is where it's been overlapped, and here is the sleeve head at the top where the notches join them together, and you can see that this is the piece underneath. Under here, this piece here is this piece here. So when they fold round, that comes around like this. This comes around and is going to get gathered and then comes over the top like this. So this is how you get this here. Now this one is a slightly unusual tulip because, as I say, we've got gather in here and done this one, and it's quite a deep tulip as well compared to some. Future notes on myself and design this, I would curve this more so that this wasn't, if we look here, so this wasn't such a harsh line here, I would do it more of a curve in. When you cut this out, you cut out two of these, and then you put them right sides together and you stitch along this bottom path so that when you're attaching the sleeve head bit, these two are already attached. So you're just attaching then the open bit, the top bit, into the sleeve hole. So obviously with this one I've gathered it. Let me show you a more traditional looking one like that. So if we look in here, this is a slightly more traditional version. You can see here what I was showing about how we take the two pieces out of the sleeve piece. We've splayed that so you end up with the two bits, as I say, making the notch to overlap, and then they become overlapped, and you obviously have a continuous piece at the back. It makes it smoother. It means you don't have a lump under your armpit. It is really important when thinking about a tulip sleeve that if you're designing one yourself like this, it is worth making notes like this is the back, so this connects to the back of the bodice, so I do my double notch there, and that this is the front, so I know that, and marking where the two join, so I know they join here like this, so that's underneath, that's on top, so they join there, and then I know that that gathering has got to gather that, so it collects up to here, so that's gathered up into there, and then that gathers up so that that's into the back notch there. So use the notches that exist on the pattern, but you can see how this goes around underneath, hence why we join it like that. Well, if you remember this top from a previous episode, this is the Seren shirt by Size Me Sewing, and this was me showing you what it was like when I'd mostly made it. There was quite a few things that weren't working, but I was determined to fix it, because these things happen when we're making things. However much we read sizing, it can happen. Well, here we go. Right, so I have sorted the Seren shirt. It has taken some work, including the fact that I switched the sleeves round because I think I had them on back to front because there was a slight pulling here. However, I am still curious about this. I felt like this shape should be on the back, but the seam line is under here, so this feels back to front to me. I feel like this should be under here, but I've switched them round because I felt like there was pulling, and I was right because I found the notches. Now you will notice here, even if I untuck it, this is so much better. This looks like it belongs on me. So I did nothing around here because I felt that fitted fine. But I realised I'd forgotten the double placket, which I now have. Yes, it's pins holding it together at the moment, which has made the front better, but there was still too much fabric. So I have shown you, I bought this piece, I saved it to show you. This is how much I took off the back of each side. So that's the armpit, curving down and round my waist and then back down a bit, and that's off both backs because there's lots of space here because you've got this back pleat, but there was too much here, and I knew that the front would work out because of the placket, but I just knew that I needed, and that is so much better. Now I am going to go and study the pattern because I really feel that this should be under here. It feels comfy, it feels nice, I like it, I like the puffage, but I just feel like it, I feel like it's upside down, and I've had a look at some pictures and I can't quite tell. But I will definitely now wear this. I really like it. Oh, and I adjusted the bust dart, so can you see it's now travelling right to the correct apex. But I am delighted that I have been able to fix it, and I appreciate that people did say, why didn't you just make a smaller size? Now for future ones, I think I would, but remember I only took distance out of the back, not the front, and the shoulders were fine and this area was fine. So whilst I do appreciate what people are saying, one of the important things I wanted to show you is when you make something and it doesn't work, you can rescue it. It doesn't have to go on the naughty pile. Now, if you haven't seen along the bottom while you're watching, or if you tap into the details, you can join my membership. Now, nothing bad happens when you click. What you get is all the info about the different tiers. The lowest tier is about the price of a chocolate bar, less than some if you shop in places like Marks and Spencer's, and the higher tier is about just over a coffee a month. Now, why membership, Sam? Why would I want that? Well, if you want extra behind the scenes videos from me, then you'd want to join the highest tier. If you would like to join virtuals where we have virtual sewings and chat, last week we've literally just chatted for 2 hours. It's been fantastic, and there are people from all over the world, so we're getting to learn about each other, about different parts of the world. It is really quite fantastic. You need to join the higher 2 tiers for that. Or if you just want access to resources that I make and share, there is a whole Google Drive full of excellent resources for you. Then all 3 tiers have access to those. So there are things available as extras for my fantastic members, and it's also a great way that if you want to say thank you for the things that I do, and maybe you don't want to do a coffee and you maybe want to become a bit more of a member, you get things in return for your thank you. But of course, the biggest thank you to me of all is leaving a comment and a like. So this is version 1 of the Anna Allen Anthea blouse. Now I wanted to show you this because this is in quite a thick, slightly stretched, I'd say it's like a cotton sateen. I think it is a crafty pie fabric. This was my first ever version, and you can see here how I think I could just need a little V, something at the front with a pattern like this. It is beautiful fabric and I love it, but sometimes on a petite frame, or maybe on anyone, it can just be a bit overwhelming having the fabric all the way up to a neckline like that. So I thought I would show you. So, following on from my previous Anna Allen Anthea blouse, which was in like a high quality cotton, this one is what I would describe as a viscose or a viscose linen, and it's really drapey. And I just wanted to show you how this sits so differently on me compared to the others. When we're talking about how fabric can affect it, I know it feels obvious, but sometimes it's just nice to see it. So I really like this type of fabric in this pattern. I would never button it, I have to say, all the way to the top. I just feel, for me, buttoning that to the top is just not on my radar. I just like it like that. And it does mean that you've got to be careful, because when you pull it in, it obviously pulls the shoulders in, but I could adjust the cut there. But because you've got the weight of the sleeves, it will pull it out a little bit, but not too much. But I feel I need that little piece there, just to, because I'm so petite, I think otherwise it can just feel like, whoa, it's a lot of fabric. But actually I really like that. I could see that, and I'm wearing it with another blue, this kind of like tonal dressing, but I've got one pin on it at the moment. Buttons will go on. But I just think, yeah, fabric can sometimes completely change a top. So if you make something and not sure if you like it, try it in a different fabric, because it can really change how you feel, and this little wiggle just to see. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you haven't seen, there is a whole playlist with all of the episodes in, which I'll put here. You may well want to head over and have a binge watch, catch up, and make sure you check out episode 3 because there's something extra special in there. I will see you very soon for episode 7, which is going to be a live. The details will be appearing on the screen now about date and time. And we're going to chat and share and talk about blouses, and I'll share all my finished makes with you, and we'll just have a really good, fantastic showcase. So I hope I see you there.